If you're the type of person who buys SIG pistols purely to put the sticker that comes in the box on the rear window of your truck so you can flex on the pours, then you're in luck. Because tonight we're talking about the SIG Sauer P320 X5 Legion. And as an added bonus, you're going to get a review of a competition pistol by an actual competition shooter. Are you ready? Stand by. So to provide some value for the 30-second and out crowd, here's the synopsis. Back in the day, SIG Sauer released the P320 X5 and it made a huge splash both in competitive and non-competitive circles alike. That and the Romeo 1 were instantly popular. While the Romeo 1 fell out of favor, the X5 was the most popular pistol at the USPSA Carry Optics Nationals last year. SIG Sauer doubled down on this momentum and introduced the new, heavier P320 X5 this year. The most notable feature of which is the tungsten infused frame, which makes the gun tip the scales at about 38 ounces without the mag well installed. The heavy frame is supposed to combine the best of both worlds, both the flex and give of a polymer frame with the weight of a steel frame, making a super soft shooting gun, which it certainly is. The weight helps the gun settle out of recoil and recover faster, as well as settle in from transition as well. It's easy to hold on longer distance shots because the frame provides stability. But SIG didn't stop there. They added a lighter trigger because lighter triggers are easier to shoot. It's skeletonized and it is advertised as being about 3 pounds. This specific model is breaking about 2 pounds as it's had a polish job done to it. SIG has since ditched the Romeo 1 cut and now offers a Delta Point Pro cut, which also fits the new Romeo 1 Pro. And a less spoken about but very appreciated feature is the steel guide rod, which allows the use of 1911 5-inch springs. It comes with both a 14-pound and a 12-pound spring, so you can tune the velocity of the slide movement to your load, which is great for an actual competition gun. The whole package combines and is a very soft shooter, and it is very easy to shoot accurately. While this is arguably the best out-of-the-box competition pistol you can buy and offers tremendous value, there are some issues that come with it, and you're gonna have to stick around to hear what those are. Now I'm gonna get into the weeds in this review. That's kind of who I am, and I am an actual competition shooter. If I lose you at any point, please feel free to ask questions in the comments, or if you don't agree with what I'm saying, let's engage and have a discussion. So before we go a whole lot further, there are two things I want to address. The first is that this is a borrowed gun that I have to give back to my buddy in just a couple days, so I have not gotten to spend the amount of time with it that I would typically like to give. So my index is not as refined and polished as it is with other platforms, and as a result, none of the shooting, as you probably noticed, is truly worthy of the gram. And the second bit there is that this is not a stock gun. As you might have noticed, it has a Trijicon SRO mounted. It has been modified in the fact that it has the optics ledge modified for a Trijicon SRO. The trigger has been polished, and the front sight has been removed with this blank plate. That also means that I don't have the box to show you all the knickknacks that are really cool and come with the Legion, but that stuff's kind of boring anyway. They give you a coin, so I hear, so that's pretty exciting. So a big thanks to my buddy Will, whose gun I am borrowing. And the next bit of business is to support the channel. Please go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps with the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Check out the links in the description. There's a link to my Patreon where there's some cool things going on over there. I've got a link to the merch store where you can buy some logo gear, as well as some links in the description to some of the products that I'll be mentioning. Before we take it down to the table and take a close look at it, let's talk about the intended use of this pistol. So most buyers for this pistol are going to be recreational type of shooters and people who like to flex on Glock owners. So as this is a competition pistol, guys, please save any of the comments about the two-way range or anything that might happen in the streets or anything like that. I know that this is a competition pistol for two reasons. The first is they made it even heavier and less practical than the duty version of the gun. And the second, that a gun with no trigger safeties and a history of going off when it's dropped has a 3-pound trigger. So this gun is going to be most appropriate for IDPA divisions, SSP, ESP, and carry optics. USPSA Divisions Limited, Carry Optics Production, and 3-gun. So now that all that's out of the way, let's take it down to the mat and have a closer look at it. So a quick caveat to this is that it is all going to be based around your individual hand size. I wear size large gloves and I have about large size hands. So the first thing to discuss is this sculpt of the grip. When you pick the gun up, it is contoured fantastically. The frame is completely contoured to make a very pleasing interaction with your hand. The gun has been completely deburred and is absolutely comfortable all the way around, from the bit of the beaver tail there at the top of the back strap of the gun to the excellent relief up under the trigger guard, which lets you get really, really high. The gun is designed with a human hand in mind. And as a result of a good shaped grip, the trigger reach is absolutely fantastic. It's just right where you want it to be so that you can pull the trigger straight to the rear. And the trigger shape, honestly, is fantastic as well. I thought I was not a fan of the straight trigger, but this trigger shape is really easy to get a hold of and very easy to pull straight to the rear. And as you can see in the B-roll, this particular trigger is sub 2 pounds due to the polish job that my buddy put on it. But more than just the light trigger, the throw of the trigger is very, very short. So let's see if you can see this here. All right, so there is a bit of slack, not very much, but there I am up on the wall, then there's a little bit of creep, until it releases. And it's not a very hard wall. It's almost like a rolling brake, which is coming into vogue. The reset is kind of anemic. I'll do it again. So here we go, forward. There is no forward assist from the trigger. If you're used to a gun that has a strong resetting trigger that throws your finger off the trigger, this is not that. It is very, very subtle. You're not going to necessarily outrun it when you're shooting fast, but you're also not going to be able to use it to rebound your finger off the trigger to get back on it faster. So my fastest splits on my typical match gun is about a 16 or 17. Shooting this gun, I was only able to put down about a 17 and an 18. So the strong reset can assist in trigger speed, but I'm sure if I got more time behind this trigger due to the very short trigger travel, I'd be able to shoot this faster with time. And that all said, trigger speed's not everything. It's only an Instagram skill. It almost never comes up in any practical use. So all the features I've discussed so far makes for one really accurate pistol. The very first shots I took with this pistol were on a plate rack at 30 yards where I went 6 for 8 after 2 getting to know you shots on the trigger, as I learned how I needed to be addressing the back strap of the gun to stabilize it. I was able to shoot some 50-yard C-zone steel, absolutely no problem. It was easy. And then again, back at the 30-yard line, I was able to light up a 4-inch plate on a dueling tree. And I didn't bother printing any groups with it, but I honestly have no reason to believe that this gun is any less accurate than any of the other competition guns that are out there. Moving on from the trigger, the rest of the controls, the actual mag release, it releases magazines very positively, but the button's kind of small and it's kind of far away, and I feel like I have to break my grip, because there's my grip, and then trying to get on the mag button, I can't quite do it, so I do have to kind of shift the gun around in my hand. So I'd appreciate that button being perhaps slightly larger and slightly taller. Now, as far as the mag well is concerned, it comes with a mag well, which is kind of useless considering this gun is going to be shot in 9mm divisions, which don't allow the use of mag wells except in IDPA, ESP, or carry optics. But the actual funnel into the grip itself is a decent size. It's not as big as some of the larger offerings on there, but it's not small either, and it's got a bit of a bevel on the inside of the frame, which is welcome. The gun reloads fine. Forgive my lack of Instagram-worthy reloads, but I didn't have any issue with very little practice being able to hit passable reloads. While the rest of the grip is great, but when you get a firing grip, I feel like there's not enough space for my support hand. I really want to get on that gun and get a good, strong grip, and I just feel like my fingers are in the way. It's too short from front to back, but that would come at the expense of trigger reach. But as the left hand really helps stabilize the gun and control recoil, I feel like they left some on the table there. And furthermore, there's not great traction on this side of the gun. I feel like a better pattern, like if you run your finger over it, it feels like an emery board, like it's gonna be really, really grippy. And it is honestly grippier than just regular plastic pistols, but not a lot so. I would still probably look at doing something different with this grip, either apply a grip decal or potentially stippling. Now, the iron sights that come on these guns, I'm told, are fantastic. But this is 2019 and I use a red dot like a sensible person.
You said it, man.
Now, one thing that I'm told and I'm honestly not seeing is that the chamber support was improved with these new X5 Legion barrels. Looking at it, however, I don't know that that's the case. You have to put it on the slide and in the frame, and it still looks like there is a bit of the case that is unsupported. On the old X5, some models had issues with brass bulging at the base, just really hideous bands on the base, which is an issue if you can't shoot reloaded rounds out of a competition pistol, because that's most of what people shoot out of competition pistols. But so far, none of the brass has been bulging out of this particular model, so that seems to check out. It does seem to have decent enough chamber support. As far as the slide work is concerned, you can see Sig Sauer P320 X5 roll mark. If I had the rear sight on here, you'd be able to see the Legion mark, and it's all been coated PVD gray. The serrations are very usable. When you rack in front of the ejection port like so, it absolutely does not budge. It feels fantastic in the hand. It is very easy to manipulate. The slide work is very good on this. And as discussed, the star of the show, as far as I'm concerned, is the 1911 guide rod. It allows you to use full-length GI 1911 springs, which is great because they're inexpensive and widely available, so you can make the gun behave exactly like you want it to behave. As far as the magazines are concerned, these are not the magazines that come with it. These are the old X5 magazines, the 21 rounders. I'll talk more about these in a bit. It comes with 3 top shelf magazines that sell for about 33 bucks a piece without the fancy base pad, but the Legion ones come with a base pad made by the Henning Group, which makes top shelf competition base plates. So SIG is really providing a lot of value in this package. And possibly the best reason to buy a Legion pistol is that Sig Sauer will put you on a special mailing list, giving you the opportunity to send them more money so you can continue to flex on social media after the initial Instagram posts wear off. The actual slide finish, as we talked about, is the PVD coating. I've heard good things and I've heard bad things about these. I really don't know what to say, as this is a pretty new pistol. There is a little bit of wear up here at the front where it's been rubbing on the screw in my buddy's holster, but for the most part, it looks like it's holding up okay. Time will tell. That looks like that's rubbing off from holster wear. So it looks like the finish is going to probably rub off on this one pretty quick, which kind of sucks for a $900 pistol, but if you watch my old Shadow 2 review, those finishes suck too sometimes. And the star of the show is the tungsten grip module. This bad boy weighs way more than you think it ought to. You look at it, think it's going to be plastic, then you pick it up and you're like, wow, that is really, really substantial. It's freaking heavy. The pistol with the SRO optic mounted is weighing about 38 ounces without the magwell installed. And that said, the pistol recovers from recoil like a champ. You can fire aim shots very, very rapidly with this pistol due to the weight of the frame. Now that all said, I'm going to put this back together and we're going to talk about some of the negatives that I found on this. So before you SIG guys crucify me, I'm going to go ahead and ruin the surprise, but I am going to recommend this pistol very highly at the end of the video. But there are some issues I feel like SIG needs to address with this pistol to really hit a grand slam with this thing. So we're going to take it back up top and go from there. So if you're watching this video much after August 2019, there's a good chance SIG has already taken care of these issues. SIG is notorious for making silent changes mid-production run to address issues in design. And as a lot of these issues are relatively minor, I bet they can probably take care of it and no one would be the wiser. The first issue is more of an issue with the P320 platform, and that is this beautiful heavy frame doesn't negate the fact that this has a relatively high bore axis. And as a result, when you're shooting at 5 shot per second speed, this gun isn't necessarily any more controllable than any of the lighter weight counterparts. In fact, at that speed, I had more of an issue with vertical stringing than I did with the other guns I was shooting. Now remember when I said that this is a borrowed gun, technique is a heavy, heavy part of recoil control and recoil management. I have not had this gun long enough to develop the nuanced grip and really to hold this gun flat. So that said, I am a low M, high A USPSA shooter. I can hold guns reasonably flat if you've seen any of my match videos. But to me, the grip shape and the trigger honestly make this gun easier to shoot than just the weight of it alone. Another thing to talk about this gun is that while it is very heavy, it still behaves more like plastic. There are a couple spots on this frame where my buddy's holster has screws protruding that have gouged the frame, and I noticed through doing some reloads, I've nicked up the mag well a good bit, which makes me think that this grip module is going to have to be replaced if I do a lot of reload practice over a couple years. Now, some shooters never have to change the frames that they shoot with. Others go through a frame a year. Now, I can see having to replace this frame every couple years potentially, depending on how much reload practice I'm doing. And that's a bit of an issue because this is the most expensive frame module that Sig Sauer makes at about $250 right now if you can find one. The next issue is optics readiness. While they have a reasonably good system for installing optics, it only comes drilled for the Delta Point Pro, which was good about a year ago when that was the best optic going. But now there's the Romeo 3 Max and the Trijicon SRO, both of which you're going to have to send your money to your favorite machine shop to get adapter plates for. It seems like Sig would have developed the adapter plates and sold them as well. So it seems like a bit of a missed opportunity by launching this pistol without the Romeo 1 Pro. And possibly my biggest, and I feel like the most gross negligent miss by Sig, is this little witness hole in the top of the chamber. As we discussed, this is a competition gun. It's going to be unloaded and in a holster 99% of the time. The only time it's going to be loaded is when a range officer tells you load and make ready or you're at your individual practice. There's not a compelling reason to have a loaded chamber indicator. But the big problem is that this is an optics ready pistol. And if you use a Delta Point Pro, this little witness hole is going to put hot gas all over the lens of your optic. And you're going to have to wipe that off after about 100 rounds or so when it becomes obvious. And that's not the end of the world. Plenty of guys have that issue with their open guns and all that kind of stuff. But when you are shooting a match, to properly clean the lens of your optic, you're going to have to go to the safe area. Sometimes ranges don't have that many safe areas and it's a bit of a hike, so it can be kind of annoying if you're shooting like a major match with 10 or 12 stages in a day. And another thing that's annoying is that the optics, the original Romeo 1s, will not fit on this optic plate. So if you were one of the original X5 adopters and you thought you could bring over your Romeo 1, you can't. You have to either get a new Romeo 1 Pro, an adapter plate for anything else, or a Delta Point Pro. It seems to me like this is an easy problem to fix, and I doubt that it's going to be a feature in the gun going forward. But what's probably more alarming about that is that Phil Strader is the product manager on the P320 platform, and Max Michel has been shooting P320s basically since they came out. You would have thought that somebody would have caught on to the optics windows getting fouled due to the witness hole on the top of the chamber. So with all the negative stuff out of the way, a competition gun is going to cost you about $1,000 once all's said and done, once you put your little modifications on it and I'll bolt on all your doodads. And the Sig Sauer Legion is coming in at about $990 in August 2019. So probably the closest competitors to this model are going to be the Walther Q5 Match and the Q5 Match steel frame, which are going to be weighing in at about $750 and about $1,300. So the Sig is kind of right there in the middle, and the Walther is going to have arguably as good as, if not a better trigger than the Sig, but it's going to have kind of a weird grip that makes it more difficult to reload due to how the bottom of the grip is shaped. And probably the other competitor would be like the Glock 34 Gen 5 or 17 MOS pistols. And they're going to come in at about $720 and about $600. The problem is that at that price point, the Glocks are not going to be super competitive. You're going to want to drop a trigger job, some backup iron sights, and you're going to want to do maybe a guide rod to get it more level of a playing field. And at that point, you're going to be close to $1,000. So dressed up like that, the Glock is going to be about $1,000, and magazines are going to be a bit cheaper. But you're going to have a much lighter weight gun, so if the weight's important to you, there's really no contest. So even though I've picked on the pistol a little bit, I still think it's one of the best out-of-the-box pistols you can buy right now, and at $990, it's honestly a great value. I think if you're someone who's thinking about entering competition and don't have a competition setup gun right now, this would be a great choice. Or if you're new to competition and you're having issue hitting all the things, this might be just the ticket to get you hitting everything, because the ergonomics and the trigger shape, as I mentioned, make it really, really easy to be accurate with. But if you're already a competitor and you're having some success with your given platform, I really don't think that the Legion is the magic bullet that's going to take you to the next level. I couldn't make this gun do anything that I couldn't do with my match gun. In fact, I shoot my match gun better because I'm more familiar with it. That's not to say if I spent more time with this pistol, I wouldn't be able to exploit more of the features of it, but they didn't just scream at me as I was shooting it. And if you're shooting one of the older X5s, yeah, I think you should go ahead and get that grip module when your grip module wears out. Maybe get a trigger job while you're at it. So the Sig Sauer P320 X5 Legion is a fantastic pistol. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Please like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.